Señoras y señores, tengan mucho cuidado, porque aquí llegan para hablar de lucha libre en esta arena, bandidos del micrófono. Rondan este territorio. Señoras y señores, llega hasta este escenario el coyote rápido, Jay. Y llega acompañado por el voluntario vicioso sin cinturón. Él es Cody. Y llegan para presentar de Rudos Podcast.
Thank you for listening to part 2 of the G1 Fight for the Fallen doubleheader. You can check out part 1 and all of our other episodes at rudospodcast.co. Come and see our next live show immediately following All Out on August 31st, only on twitch.tv/Rudo's Podcast and the Rudo's Podcast YouTube channel. Search for Rudo's Podcast on YouTube to find it. Follow us at Rudo's Podcast on Instagram and Twitter for the latest Rudo updates. And if you like the show, support us at patreon.com/Rudo's Podcast and by getting some of that awesome Rudo's merch, just like our buddy K Monito mask at prowrestlingtees.com/Rudo's Podcast. Enjoy the show. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We've talked about the G1. We've talked about our predictions. There was another big wrestling show this weekend. Fight
Evolve's 10th anniversary show.
Oh, God.
So healed tonight, Ryan.
I know.
I'm feeling particularly prickly tonight.
Yeah.
Rudo Ryan is in full effect tonight. Fight for the Fallen. A lot of people had high expectations after Double or Nothing and Fyter Fest. I think some people thought that this wasn't up to the level of those previous two shows, but if this is what their weekly TV is going to be like, it's going to be pretty darn good.
I was thinking the same thing. It kind of felt like what maybe their weekly TV would feel like. There was a lot I did actually like about this show. For one, I thought the venue they were in and how they had that set up was really cool and different. Interestingly enough, the guy that created it saw the wrestling episode of South Park and wanted to recreate that view.
Tony Khan tweeted the inspiration for the Fight for the Fallen set was from South Park. Very interesting inspiration. Hey, it seemed to look okay on TV. It didn't seem to affect any of the production.
I thought it looked good. I felt like the announcing crew, we talked a little bit about this at the top of the show. They started to sound much more cohesive. Some good improvements there too. And then the show overall, there were some really fun matches in the show. And there's some really fun moments. Not like the top to bottom quality of all the other hours of wrestling we watched over this weekend, but still really good.
I would say the show is good overall, but this was the first one where you really kind of felt all 4.5 hours of it, even if you were not in the steaming hot venue at that time.
It was a really long show.
So the Fight for the Fallen pre-show, we had Sonny Kiss against Peter Avalon. Sonny Kiss, one of my favorite wrestlers. I really, really like Sonny Kiss. I was very impressed when I saw him on Lucha Underground. He is a really great athlete, a really great wrestler. Love the gimmick. He's definitely got star potential. Peter Avalon, the librarian gimmick.
This was the best showing, I think, for the librarian gimmick, in part because the crowd actually did want to really play to that, as it were. Like, they actually got the intended reaction compared to Fyter Fest.
I remember hearing somebody yelling like reading sucks or books suck or something like that. Somebody from the crowd.
Yeah, reading sucks. So the other week they had Leva Bates walk in on the Bucks and pretty much tell them how much she was loving the gimmick and how it was getting over. So the storyline now is that, yes, Leva is all in on the librarian gimmick. Pretty Peter Avalon is not. This week he was definitely like, he was done with the librarian gimmick. It was just like, I'm going to talk to creative. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the librarian gimmick from here. You could already tell that he wasn't too into the gimmick at that point, considering that he came out in a Rick Rude robe for his match.
Hey, man, imitating the greatest heel of all time, smart move.
Yeah, I suppose. The match itself was all right. I think Sonny Kiss looked pretty dang good in the ring. Maybe just a little bit green, but she shows a lot of promise.
Fantastic wrestler, huge amount of potential. I'm really stoked to see what AEW is going to do with Sonny. And then the other match, pretty nasty little concussion there early for Dr. Britt Baker, DDS.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
So it was B. Priestley and Shoko Nakajima and Britt Baker. Really unfortunate that Britt Baker was sitting there on the mat for a minute, didn't really register in my mind. And also, I am all about the big kaiju Shoko Nakajima.
Yeah, Shoko and Riho both looked really good during this match. I was very impressed with them. Riho's double stomps look like death. They look so painful, especially considering how small she is. For those double stomps to look like that. Ugh.
I was very surprised with how over B was in the building, considering that I can't really think of a time before this where she's worked in the U.S.
Maybe there were a lot of Stardom viewers in the audience.
There might very well have been.
I don't think worked live in the U.S. really matters that much anymore.
She looked pretty stiff. Those kicks, man. Woo.
She's pretty much a Joshi wrestler now. You would hope that her kicks are stiff.
And I noticed not only did Britt take the initial kick, because you could see initially Britt went to the wrong corner, tried to tag Shoko Nakajima, ended up going to the correct corner, tagged in Riho, and then you could see Britt immediately holding her head and the referee checking on her. It was pretty apparent that something had happened. And then there was a later spot where B looked like she kind of botched a springboard attack and got a knee into Britt's face. So Britt took a beating in that match. And B, I don't know, man. You can't be concussing your coworkers. Not a good way to start off your debut.
No.
Dustin said that he would be interested in working with her, and hopefully they can kind of smooth out those issues and help her kind of adjust to the different AEW style. Maybe she has to tone down the kicks to the head a little bit.
Oh, but we didn't even talk about Brandy versus Allie yet.
I love that match.
No, you don't.
I do.
There is one thing we're talking about, and that's the tease that happened after the match was over.
The Battle of the Kongs, unfortunately, probably about 10 years past its expiration date, but heck, I'll tune in. I want to see them go after each other.
Now, Awesome, she looked okay during the Double or Nothing match, but that was a 4-way, so she could choose her spots there. I mean, we'll see. They have faced off once before back in 2004 in Gaia. But yeah, this is going to be the first time in America that they faced each other. And they're pretty old at this point, so we'll see what happens. It's probably going to be a tag match.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to have to do a tag or multi-women match to cover for the wear and tear both women have taken over the years. I mean, the fact that Aja Kong is still wrestling after, 30 years? Those matches in All Japan Women's Wrestling back in the day oh man, they were brutal. The fact that Aja Kong can even walk is a miracle, let alone the fact that she's still working. It's impressive.
She had a match of the year with Hikaru Shida last year. Match of the year candidate, but whatever.
Crazy that in her mid-50s, she's still cranking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other thing about it being a tag ride is part of the fun of having two gigantic monster type foes is when they have some smaller people to throw around and beat up. And I think Brandy and Allie both just signed up to get tossed around for a little bit.
There will definitely be some ragdolling.
I really hope Brandy sells more of Aja Kong's offense than she sold of Allie's offense in this match.
Aja Kong will make damn sure Brandy sells her offense.
Oh, yes.
Aja Kong, not really known for pulling her punches.
Just ask Maki Ito.
Adam Page definitely seems to have suffered from the change in plans. He had a pretty good match with Sabian, but doesn't really come out of it looking like the top guy that you would expect, right? That AEW expects.
That was a match that needed to be like 10 minutes long, and they decided to tease out the draw instead. And it was like at least two other matches on this card where you could have done that and have it make sense.
I think that's a consistent criticism of every match on the card, except maybe two, in my opinion.
They had the announcers explaining that Paige was injured. Paige was kind of selling the knee injury, and that explained why Sabian was able to push Hangman Page so far when it should have been a much easier match for him. But I didn't think the execution worked really that well, and like you guys said, really it should be more about making Paige look strong at this point, and I don't know, it's not working what they're doing right now. I mean, what do you guys think? Should they be having him do jobber squashes or something, or what?
I think the right way to book this match is put him in there with a heel and have that heel explicitly work his leg for an extended period. And still cut the match probably in half by runtime, but do the leg story. You need to push on the leg story. And Kip Sabian just felt like a really weird choice to put in there. He's ostensibly another face. You know, they're just doing high spots back and forth.
Or even someone like Chris Daniels was on this card and was really just a valet.
Or you could even swap Sabian for MJF in the trios match and have MJF do that. I mean, that would have been a good move.
I think it's too early for MJF and Adam Page. I think that's been chambered after the title presentation thing and MJF coming out to cut a promo on him. I think they've sort of chambered that bullet for later, and they don't want to fire it off quite yet.
Right. It's notable that MJF was not involved at all in the finish of the 4-way back at Fyter Fest. That's something that's going to be simmering.
Yeah, I think they want to come to that later.
I would not be surprised if that is another feud for TV, to be honest.
That may be a feud that they save. I mean, that could even go until next year's whatever All Out 2020. That's a money feud right there that they're building with MJF and Paige, but they got to do something to get Paige more over. And Paige just doesn't seem to be ready to take on that top spot yet. And it's become apparent, I think, in these past two shows that, yeah, he's a 5-tool prospect. He's got a ton of potential, but maybe he's not the guy quite yet.
No, he's not the guy quite yet. None of this would be happening if Pac had been able to make the match at Double or Nothing. And we can safely assume that it was, in fact, a Dragon Gate-related visa issue rather than a creative difference. That just sounds like AEW trying to cover up for Dragon Gate's mistake, to be honest. Because Pac is still contracted to Dragon Gate as of right now.
Some other highlights from the show. Lucha Brothers, SCU, very fun match.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I think one of the big highlights that a lot of people came away with, though, was the first time for them to see a boy and his dinosaur in AEW, and they crushed it.
They're so awesome. I fucking love that. The whole presentation, him coming out on his shoulders. I just think that is just some cool ass shit.
Third tier small boy Marco Stunt joining them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amazing. Like they just do something else even weirder, and you're still like, oh, all right, this is kind of fun.
I have one criticism of this match, and it's that the Dark Order spent their entire time helping get everybody else over and didn't really give enough time getting themselves over, given that this was their first AEW appearance.
One would hope that the all-out match against the Best Friends is going to be where they actually show off more of what they can do in that one team versus one team scenario.
Right. I think they also kind of missed an opportunity, since this was a triple threat and therefore no disqualification. I think they missed an opportunity to use the Creepers to do something.
I think they're trying to lean away from the Creepers a lot because, frankly, the production problems they've been having trying to get the Creepers to and out of the ring have just been too much. I feel like their appearance at Fyter Fest would have gone over a lot better if there weren't 30 seconds of darkness between them appearing and them disappearing.
Really, the best use for Creepers at this point would be to have them get around and just be there for a crazy Angelico or Jack Evans dive spot and have 10 guys there ready to catch somebody.
Or heck, just use them like they were here, where they just came out, they were Evo Uno's throne, and then they left.
I thought that match was great. A lot of folks seem to have really taken a shine to Angelico and Evans, and then a boy and his dinosaur really crushed it. The trios match was another highlight. I thought Darby came out of that showing that he had really connected with the crowd, and they...
Oh, hell yeah.
Steve, how do you think Darby connected with the crowd? Was it the time limit draw with Cody?
Yes, Cody's a genius. I am lucky to live in Vancouver, which is near Northeast United States, which is sort of Darby's stomping ground. So I've seen him live once or twice. He's the kind of guy where you just know he's sort of destined to get over. It's just, how long is it going to take for him to do something? I think the apron coffin drop helped a lot. And again, I think the booking of having him go to a time limit draw with Cody was just an impeccable decision. It was the right decision. It sort of got a guy over without really killing Cody all that much. I also love that match, coming out of that match, how many storylines played into this trios match. In particular, Darby and Shawn Spears and MJF and Shawn Spears.
Yeah, they did a good job weaving the storylines between the wrestlers in this. Guevara came out looking great. He did some great dives. I really like this. The crowd was hot as hell for Darby. They really popped for him. The one that really stood out for me was Kenny versus Shima. I thought that was the match of the night. Ryan, what did you think about it?
No, I totally agree. I was a little distracted at the start because after like the first minute or two, they slowed it down and the match pretty much immediately picked up as soon as they went to the outside and Shima started doing his Meteora spam. People complain about Kenny Omega throwing V-triggers all over the place. Well, here's Shima throwing his actual finisher all over Kenny's face.
Yeah, Shima did do the couple Meteora variants. I thought the one that looked really cool is when he hit him from the little platform onto the podium or
the
table.
Balcony.
Yeah, that was a very unique spot. Good use of the space.
That table was a real motherfucker, let me tell you.
Yeah. Ooh. One thing I did notice on commentary that Excalibur had missed, and Excalibur, fantastic commentator, one of my favorite commentators in all of professional wrestling, but he did say that Kenny had not faced somebody who had the Lucha submission experience like Shima. That is wrong. Don't forget, Shima trained in Toryumon, Mexico with Ultimo Dragon and Skyday. Who else trained there? Oh yeah, Kazuchika Okada. So Kenny has had plenty of experience. a funny little quip I caught that Excalibur had missed. But overall, I thought, just kind of going back to the commentary, I thought the commentary was improved. Marvez still kind of stands out as not being that great.
There was a moment during that Kenny Shima match where Marvez was all like, "Oh, he even has the name of his wife and kids on his arms in Greek." And JR was just like, "So what's their names?" Marvez had nothing.
Yeah, something tells me Marvez isn't very skilled in either Greek or Japanese.
In my opinion, Kenny and Shima was one of the matches that could have used a little bit less time. Not a lot, maybe 2 or 3 minutes less. 22 and a half minute match. I think they could have gone about 20, maybe slightly less, and had a better match.
I can still think of about 2 or 3 matches ahead of that I would have cut the time from. Obviously, the Hangman Paige match was the big one. The main event with Cody and Dustin versus the Bucks.
The main event could have really been better served by cutting 10 or 15 minutes off of there and going to a little more faster paced match. Although, yes, Dustin is not going to work a super fast paced match, but still cutting 10 minutes off of there would have done a lot more to improve the overall quality.
I think the other thing about that is that it was Cody and Dustin working the heel roles of the Young Bucks. And while that's not so bad, I kind of would have preferred the Young Bucks pulling out that Southern-style tag wrestling they were doing during their whole Fuck the Revival phase. I would have preferred them to be the heels and have been getting the heat on Dustin or Cody.
I didn't realize that they were the faces and the Brotherhood were the heels. I saw that totally differently. I felt like it was that's also why I felt like that match was really weird, because I thought it was hard to figure out who I wanted to root for.
Right, and they've been trying to show a lot of blurred line stuff with AEW in terms of faces and heels, some of which has worked better than others.
They were both tweener. They weren't really working super face, working super heel either. The Young Bucks really do excel as asshole heels, though. That is their best role. The best matches they've had in PWG, the most heat they've gotten was always as dickbag asshole heels.
So here's a question for you guys. Do you think that maybe they know this too, or could do this, but do you think that because of it being new and attracting new people, and the Young Bucks are obviously supposed to be some of the big stars, that to be a little more fan favorite-y just because people who've never seen them before are coming to check these guys out?
I mean, I can see that, but Cody's also right up there with them. I think this one's more of a case of...
It's true, and so is Brandy. They all kind of would make really good heels, but they're like the face of this new company.
Yeah, I think this was more of a case of Cody prefers working heel, so he was the one who would work heel in the match.
Oh, got it.
On the Bucks. Just thinking about that match just makes me think of my actual favorite Young Bucks match, which is actually from the G1 Finals in 2017. It was the Bucks versus Taguchi and Ricochet for the junior tag titles. And again, that's just a match where they were working that Southern style in response to the revival. And they were just the mean-ass heels locking in submissions, Taguchi and Ricochet, keeping them grounded.
Yeah.
And something about that match really speaks to me. I couldn't tell you quite what it was, but that's still just like all these years later, that's my favorite Young Bucks match.
And yet you refuse to refer to Taguchi and Ricochet by their official name, Funky Future.
I was trying to remember it as I was saying that, but it also doesn't help that match was immediately overshadowed by Shibata's return.
Since we're on the subject of it, my favorite Young Bucks heel match, I'm going to go PWG, the world's cutest tag team against the Young Bucks, Guerrilla Warfare.
I don't think Candice LeRae has ever recovered.
That wraps up our highlights. We've covered Fight for the Fallen, we've covered the G1 nights 2, 3, and 4. There is an incredibly stacked calendar of wrestling through the rest of July and into August. It's insane. There's so much going on this summer. It's a really great time to be a wrestling fan. We're so lucky to be experiencing this wrestling renaissance. Ryan, Steve, thank you guys for joining us.
Pleasure as always.
Heck yes, my Rudo friends.
All right. We're going to keep track of our predictions going forward. We're going to check in with Ryan and Steve and see how we're doing. Somebody's going to win that authentic Rouge mask from Mexico.
I'm feeling pretty good about my chances right now.
Wow.
Well, smack talk.
I'm not talking any smack after the Switchblade went 0-2.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Tournament's not over till it's over, boys.
Nope. But hey, that's why we're going to be checking in and watching a ton of wrestling this summer. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jay.
And this is Scotty No Belt. Be sure to give us a rating in your favorite podcast store.
Yes. Give us a great rating. Check out our website, rudospodcast.co. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at rudospodcast. And you can check us out. Look for the Rudo's Podcast channel on YouTube or twitch.tv/Rudo's Podcast. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Rudo's Podcast, or get some of that sweet Rudo's merch like our buddy Kimonito mask, prowrestlingtees.com/Rudo's Podcast. Stay Rudo, my friends. Quédese rudo, amigos.